only a paper moon sailing over a cardboard sea. But it wouldn't be make-believe if you believed in me. Yes, it's only a canvas sky hanging over that muslin tree. But it wouldn't be make-believe if you believed in me. Without your love, it's a honky tonk parade. Without your love, now it's a melody played in a penny arcade. It's a Barnum and Bailey world, just as phony as it can be. But it wouldn't be make-believe if you believed in me. Hey friends, this week we are looking at the 1932 Harold Arlen tune, It's Only a Paper Moon. This is one of those many tunes that has really evolved throughout the years, and that's one of the things I want to talk about here. If you look through the chords that we use for this, you're probably familiar with almost all of them, and even in this order. This is a fairly common progression, especially the A section. We have that 1-6-2-5 progression, substituting in a C sharp diminished 7th or an A7 flat 9, depending how you want to look at it on any given day. This is very similar to something like Ain't Misbehavin'. But what I want to show you are a couple just unique chord voicings that we can use to make the motion in this song a little bit smoother, as well as talk a little bit about chords in general and how songs evolve over the years. So to start with, this is in the key of C, and you're probably familiar with this opening section of C, C sharp diminished, D minor 7th, G 7th. So we can play it just like that. No problems. We go back and forth between the 2 and the 5, the D minor 7th and the G 7th, nice and easily. Now when we get to the C major chord in bar 5, that moves on to a C 7th. I want you to try an alternative voicing here. We generally play a C 7th chord as open, open, open 1, which is C 7th. We have C, E, G, B flat. This is our root position C 7th chord. But what I want you to try here is we're actually going to play the B flat on the 3rd fret of our G string instead of on the 1st fret of our A string. And this will especially work well on high G uke, but also works just fine on low G, giving us a descending bass line walking into the F chord, down to the 3rd of the F, the A. So this C7 voicing that you'll use, you'll play your regular C for 2 beats, and then reach your middle finger around to the 3rd fret of your G string. So you can see it's the same grouping of notes. We're just putting an octave C up top, keeping that common tone between the 2 C chords. And that gives us a nice sense of motion right into our F chord. You'll see as that B flat moves right on down to the A right there, and we just put down the F, leaving the ring finger on the C right where it is. Let me play the 2 different versions of this so you can hear the difference between just this one minute change that we're doing. So here's how we would generally play. We'd say C, B flat, F, F sharp diminished. And here's what that substitutes C 7th, and just listen to that little difference in the motion and how it changes how we feel about the harmony. So it gives us a little bit more cohesive of a feeling because we're maintaining that common tone on the C throughout all 4 of those chords, the C 7th, the F, and the F sharp diminished chord. Now as we move on to the bridge of this, as the A section repeats, we don't really have any new chords at all. We just start on the 4 chord and go on down to the F sharp diminished to the C. So if we get through the A section, you already know all of the chords that you can use in this. But what I want to talk about here is that while this song was written in 1932, it's one that's still heavily recorded today, and you'll see that the harmonic structure has really evolved over the years. If we look at the original sheet music that was written for this, there are actually many less chords in many parts of this tune than we have now. This 1-6-2-5 up front is not always played in the earlier versions of the tune. If we listen to some of the early guitar comping, we'll many times just have a C to a G 7th. And really this works well to support the melody. It's just giving us less motion. You can hear that it works, this A section, with very minimal chords. You can play C, G 7th, and then just hang on that G 7th. We can omit the D minor 7th even if we want, until we get to that last line where we have that motion there. That will generally always be there. That's one of the hallmarks of this song. But you can play it, say it's only a paper moon hanging over that cardboard sea. But it wouldn't be make-believe if you believed in me. So we don't need all of this motion. What happened over the years is that different players would substitute other chords that work well with this harmony to help spice up the arrangement, and it kind of became standardized. The chords that we're playing in this play along are actually much closer to the Billy Strayhorn arrangement of this tune than what would have been played in the early 30s. And likewise with the bridge, we'll see a lot of times 2 chords to the bar throughout the entire bridge with the way that many bands play it today. But as it was originally played, it was a much simpler harmonic structure, which is actually pretty close to what we played here. But especially these 2 5s, any space that we have a D minor 7th to a G 7th, if we listen to the early recordings of the tune, we generally hear just the G 7th in there. And if we think about our D minor 7th with D, F, A, and C, is really just giving us the top of our G 7th chord, G, B, D, F. We have that D and F in common to it, and those are the 2 tones, the D and the F, because the D resolves to our C in the C major chord, and our B resolves down to the C, but then we have the F resolving to the E, which is the 3rd, which is the most important part of our C major chord, because that's telling us whether it is major or minor. So it doesn't really matter whether you use a D minor 7th or a G 7th. But what's important in this is when you're looking up tunes online and wherever you find them, you're going to find different changes for every song depending on who wrote it, what recording they transcribed it off of. And that doesn't mean that one is wrong. There are numerous right ways to play a song and numerous right ways to treat it. Now that said, there are also wrong chords, and there are a lot of wrong chords out there, so it's important to use your ear while you are going through these tunes and make sure that things don't sound fishy to you. But you can come up with this, and what I write on these pages is not gospel. These chords evolve over the years. The songs evolve with the performers, and we need to always remain cognizant of that songs are living and breathing objects, and that we are not necessarily having to play them as if they are set in stone. I'll see y'all next week.